also tells this story. The movie Youth, I would like to think older entertainers would look at and try to reinvent and figure themselves out in the real world and take a part of work of arts that would depict that, which will come to be one of the main points of the movie Youth. So let's get on into it, because there were a few other characters that stood out that will come out in this movie Reverence. But let's start with what the director Sorrentino, in my opinion, captured. Michael Caine and Harvey Keitel were the soundboard, so to speak. They were the actors, the stars of the film, in being two older men with this interesting friendship as they kind of retrace woes and foes and good times from their life and career, as they analyze and discuss and have little quirky discussions about decisions that they made in their life. They were just the surface. Seeing these two actors aside each other and play off each other, there's some actors that you wonder, what are their relationships off film? You find out in some movies they had such a great screen presence whatever that movie was done. Next time they see each other is maybe at an award show or 10 or 20 years later. And that's just what the essence of acting is all about. I'd have to do an in-depth search to see if there's what other movies these two actors have played. If there's any other movies Harvey Keitel and Michael Caine have played in together. If these two actors being chosen in itself was a complete opposite to their current characters, chosen characters as actors, meaning is there anything else that they played in together? But they played off each other very well. I thought that both storylines of the older men were set up very tastefully. It could have easily been this older person's life ended better than this older person's life, or kind of like how we all secretly, the popular person in high school, they grew old to turn out to be nothing but shit, and the person that was considered nothing but shit in high school turns out to be famous. It could have easily became that kind of movie, and to someone who looks at a movie on the surface, maybe that's what you saw. But I thought that it was very tasteful in how both men's lives were subtly presented in the midst of all of these other things happening that, if you're not a movie person and you don't pay close attention, will absolutely be missed. Because again, the main of this movie is told in the silence, motion only parts. As you observe the character of Fred Ballinger and Mick Boyle, two older friends at a exclusive, posh, rich resort that is only for retired actors or actresses and current actors and actresses or sports people. Exclusive. A place where high-end socialites can gather and feel like they're amongst each other, and that, again, that surface view of how you look at these exclusive resorts and their attitudes amongst quote-unquote commoners or people not of that life. That would only be a surface depiction, which made the movie humorous, because these people were ridiculous in some of their ways and regimens to stay young. Because it seemed like it was more of a exhort for retired exclusive. But as you watch these two older established men observe things taking place around them, the main thing that jumped out to me that made me like, I'm going to do this movie as a reference, is the essence that this director and the writing brought across in the movements and actions of the youth who had to kind of like be trapped in this place of exclusivity with the old. The old, for this this story, watching them, envying them, doing any little odd, weird exercise regimen to recapture tighter skin, smoother skin. A tale of not just two older men in these characters, but a arrangement of older people in the level to which there's just a state of depression. There's just a state of depression for something that is so inevitable like death, which is aging. If you're a healthy person, you grow older. It's not healthy to stay young all the time. You're young or a teenager for the shortest period in your life. You become and remain an adult for the rest of your life. Yet the majority will pine after those few years rather than harness the wisdom that living is giving them, rather than to embrace what life showed them, taught them. Now, in this particular example, these people are rich. So I guess it's a little harder for somebody who in real life is poor as shit to take on some of the feelings. But again, this is movies. This isn't real life. This is all movies. And the director and the actors outside of Michael Caine and Harvey Keitel, whose roles were silent, whose roles were a quick glimpse of their action, were amazing in bringing across just an air of depression. An air of depression for the people who have lived and not embracing the life that they have still in front of them. They're so busy looking back. And that air of depression flowing over the youth in this exclusive club. There was a character, Emilia Jones. This young lady already has an extensive movie career. To be so young, but she has a role on Doctor Who. Emilia Jones is also played in Pirates of the Caribbean. She's to be so young, she actually has quite a few movies under her belt. I've seen her in Pirates of the Caribbean. Again, this is a child, so that movie role wasn't too memorable. Her movie role in youth, like the example given of what made Michael Caine a name for me to remember, what made Harvey Keitel and so many others names to remember, I will remember Emilia Jones for her role in this movie. There were a few other young actors in this movie that carried across a very important part. It's almost as if there's the two stars of the movie, and then there's everybody else, and without everybody else, this movie doesn't come across the way it needs to. But this young lady, at first, it's like, kid in the movie, stuck up rich kid. She's a young actress, even in this movie, rich. And it's unclear, I'll have to go back, it's unclear if her parents are the ones that's rich or if she's the one that's rich. But she's one of the characters to help, being young, convey to what extent the air of depression is just flowing over them and affecting their young lives. Am I looking too much into it? Probably. I'm a dork. That's why this is called Movie Reverence. But as I took notice and made this a movie that I would watch, she would become one of the roles that you see it on the surface one way, like somebody passing by would just see it as a fleeting little bratty actor. But later on in the movie, her very small part carries so much weight throughout the movie. I'm going to come back around into what the children of this movie brought to this movie for me, and how powerful it is in the message of the comment, youth is wasted on the young. Is it? Is it wasted on the young? Because the children, the actors and the child actors, their roles on the surface kind of gave you a, they're just kids. They're just a show that they're so miserable around all of these older people. They just would rather be anywhere else. But then the movie turns when they actually speak. See, the way this movie unfolded, Director Sorrentino, I applaud you. I will look forward to catching up on your current work of arts and follow future work of arts, because the in-depthness that was carried off through the majority of the movie, these child actors being silent, their role was more about their action and drawing a conclusion to the watcher based off of their action. But then when they finally speak, you go, whoa, that's not what I expected. That's not what I expected. And that turn of events becomes even a stronger foundation for the movie. I'll just go into the rest of the children's actors now. For example, Emilia Jones has a part in this movie opposite Paul Dano. Paul Dano is another, is one of my favorite, it's the favorite character I love in this movie, Jimmy Tree. We'll come to Paul Dano's character as Jimmy Tree in just a moment, but there's a part in this movie where Emilia Jones briefly plays opposite Paul Dano, and it's the first part in this movie where you hear her speak, or one of the parts where she speaks more. Because again, this is not a movie of words. This is definitely a movie of physical action. You have to watch. And it's kind of like, you're just a kid with a kid frame of thought. You don't really know or understand. And then she speaks. And it's not so much about what she speaks, but that the actor that she's speaking to, the actor's role that she's speaking to, now understands you're heavy as hell. That was pretty deep. I wasn't expecting that to come from someone so young. In another part that this director and these actors captured, there were multiple layers. These actors, through a completely separate storyline, also told a story of to what extent the children who become children actors and go on to become famous adult actors, what that spark is in them that makes them different. Or not different, but just lets you know you're going to be something different. You're going to be amazing. Most children spark you on that, oh, they're just cute, awesome, and just the whole people remembering youth and remembering what it was like to learn and observing your children as they learn. I mean, those are just beautiful, fun things. But when you meet a kid that just says something heavy and blows your mind, or they project an energy so heavy at such a young age that it causes you to gut check yourself. And not only gut check yourself, but as a viewer, as a movie lover, people do auditions all day long. What are the casting people looking for? Some movies, maybe this is the least important. For some movies, it has to be the most important. For some movies, hey, they cast that role, it could have been somebody else. But for this young lady, Emilia Jones, in this character role, because it was the character written for her, it was the character that she was selected for, that brought across this essence of perhaps youth is not wasted on the young, but that certain young sees life in the life they have ahead of them the way older people should see their lives. Another child actor in this role that I actually had to see, is this boy really a violinist? Like, I know that's what acting is, when they just make you think they're just real people, but I'm not a fucking idiot. I know these are actors. Part of why I do the movie references, because I feel like when I see things and certain action and everything's about the entertainment world, that they actually don't separate properly. That shit ain't real. It's not real. These are work of arts. This is creation at its best. But another child actor that stamped a great foundation for this movie, for it to have been such a small role, and pretty much almost, towards the end of the movie, Leo Artin Bostian. He played a child violinist, and this was another character that throughout the movie, or throughout the parts of the movie where this character was shown, I just gave you an air of, okay, kid on the violin. The main star of the movie, Michael Caine, who plays Fred Ballinger, he's a famous orchestra director and composer of music. And you kind of just take it like okay, kid playing the violin, we know where this is going. There's so many different movies that go into the retired specialist taking the child under his wing. But just like the Emilia Jones character in this movie, there was so many silent actions that gave you one conclusion, but then when the child spoke, you go, whoa, again, that's not what I expected. So many movies now are going from backwards to forwards, starting at the middle and jumping around, doing very creative things to keep you out of suspense. But movies for me that the writing has so many layers in genuine terms of suspense. Not as a movie lover, I can come to, okay, you see the first 10, 20 minutes of a movie, you think you can predict the rest of the movie. That's how I am. So if I feel like I've predicted the rest of the movie and anything happens outside of that prediction, I wouldn't say I'm blown away, but it's like, okay, that was refreshing. I really wouldn't say blown away, but just taken back. And again, it yielded a different perspective as an adult. A different perspective being a person looking at the youth and wishing, hoping, praying, which I'm not that person, but a lot of people are. I don't know what the percentage is, but I think more people are pining and crying about what they did when they were young, or if they were young, then being blessed to be wise. Like, maybe we should just eliminate and get rid of the word older altogether and just say you're there, because that's pretty much it after being young. You don't get to be young no other time in your life, so why are you pining after those years? So again, the children's roles, and there were other very brief silent actors that told a tale in this atmosphere that these two older gentlemen again are observing. A lot of the movie, the editing, the directors, I applaud you, because a lot of the story had to be told in the eyes, the specific literal eyes of Michael Caine or Harvey Keitel. The creases or smirks in their face as they observe life taking place around them. How it's unsure if they observe it this way, but how as the viewer you observe, to make it real simple, these old ass people is making these young people's life miserable as hell. But it wasn't the usual, oh, they're making our life miserable parent depiction where the parent is overbearing in their life, won't let them live or want them to do what they want them to do. Or it wasn't that type of acting. It was an essence. It was an air. It was a silence air that waved over the youth in this movie, and it helped stamp how pathetic a life can become when it's unable to snap out of it, embrace, and move forward. When people get caught up in the rope of, let's say for instance, what a beauty queen aged to 80 might go through. You're beautiful. You're the world's idea of beautiful for the youth of your life. And in the moment you're no longer that size, or your skin is no longer so smooth, or you have to do, well, you don't have to, but what society is doing now, which is surgical things to make themselves be young, or even the wife whose husband can't stop looking or fucking with the 20-year-old somethings, and just wants to be loved. Like, what are women after 40 supposed to do? Look at themselves as worthless? You know, that's why so many women are getting these surgeries and doing all of these things in vain to keep themselves appealing to themselves and to their spouses, because our society has set it up to make it to where the spouses, the men, don't know how to embrace and love a woman growing older. It's kind of like the cliche with marriage, you know, and it being, oh, the old ball and chain. There's nothing positive about that. Who the fuck wants a ball and chain for the rest of their life? So it's like, why are things that are so serious to having a positive social society have these negative jokes that really do stamp the core of people and how they interact with each other? Women, for us as we get older, it's harder. It's a struggle. The men will lose interest. There's so many other beautiful young women around. They want the younger women. And the men, as they get older, they begin to, some men, look more younger or appeal to a younger woman, or that older woman next to him is no longer in it. And honestly, there's way more men who are just as subconscious about them getting old as there are women. But I'm specifically on what the majority of society depicts to us right now, and that's kind of what it is a woman growing older has to do a whole hell of a lot, essentially, to feel good about herself and growing older than a man. You know, there's like all the movies and the cliches where the men get to a certain age and it's like a midlife crisis, and you go get the younger woman, have the younger baby. Well, you know, that's just what's pushed down our throats. There is a different way to go about looking at and growing older. And I think that's what it is. I'm going to just recreate a whole nother word. But back to the movie Reverence. The children in this movie helped stamp a strong foundation for the essence that was brought across in this movie. So we're going to go to Mick Boyle's character, which was Harvey Keitel's character, and Michael Caine's character, which name was Fred Ballinger. Again, these were two old friends from their younger years, teenage years, all the way to their 80s. They'd married, they'd had children, their children married each other and were going through their own midlife crises. And the movie is really from a place of observation through their eyes. One of the surfaced storylines, if you will, For the person that isn't going to look at it as in depth as I have, will look at it as a not as active, grumpy old men, but that's not how I saw it. How I saw it was a way to tell a story through the other people's eyes, not so much so that were in their lives that they affected, but the other people's lives as in how those other people saw them. For Mick Boyle, he was a successful screenplay writer. He was at this resort working on a movie with some assistants. You kind of get the essence, like with the children actors and what it takes to see that spark in children actors. You kind of get the essence of what it takes for a movie to be written for some people. I'm only now starting to realize or embrace that more than one person writes a script. I've always come from that one person writes out the script and it's off of their word. But this showed, how multiple minds come together to write a movie. But again, that was only a surface. The main tale that was told through Mick Boyle's character was the essence, and I did not like how his character ended. I'll say that. All the way up to how his character ended held such an important message, which was we should all be going forward looking at our growing older as the next level, the next step, learning from what you were and knowing what you're going to continue to be even at the age of 80, even at the age of 85. I mean, this guy would be the proverbial energy mentally. There were parts where, reminiscing on things and the physical restraints, but mentally, this guy still saw himself as beyond this world. He saw himself on the next level. He saw himself as, I'm not about to sit back and just die, wait for the next ailment to be told to me by some doctor. No, I'm going to keep it pushing. And that was not what, that wasn't no part of what the actor said. That's what I'm taking from the character of Mick Boyle. Because Mick Boyle, unlike a lot of the other older characters in this movie, was not at this resort to concentrate on the latest skin treatment or the latest exercise regimen. He was there to push a movie. And as far as he was concerned, this was going to be the best movie in the world. And the people he had around him kept him positive thinking. They bounced off of his ideas. They had a very positive working energy that was depicted across the screen. So when we're looking at levels and surfaces and all the different things it takes to make a movie, the type of sparks that different actors and actresses need to have, this kind of helped me see how multiple minds like that write a movie. Because I come from the school of, hey, I wrote that book myself. Like a lot of times where now people have people writing the books for them, and I get it as far as autobiographies and that kind of thing. But it helped put a visual to how minds can work together when it comes to writing a movie in that way. But when it comes to the message, you hear the saying, you keep the people around you, you keep 5 people around you that's always thinking of the next best thing, that's always moving forward, that's being positive. And if it was going to be an in-depth look of Mick Boyle and his character and the characters around him, that's the essence that he brought to the movie, in my opinion. The type of energy and frame of mind that we should have growing older and as we go into the next projects of our lives. Now, there were amazing actors and actresses in this movie. Jane Fonda has a very important brief role. In fact, all of the important roles were extremely brief. If you blink, you would miss them. But the portion of the movie opposite Jane Fonda and Harvey Keitel, given what I just said, that on the real life purpose of McBoyle and the energy he brought, which was the older person who was still writing, still pushing, still looked at himself, it also showed how life can take that energy and stomp it right down into the ground. You can feel this way about yourself, but how everyone else is going to feel may be lower than you could even imagine. And for this character, it was more than what he could take. But what came out of the movie and what came out of the part of the movie which showed Jane Fonda opposite Harvey Keitel was so important. And as I continue to do the movie Reverence, I am realizing more than 3, more than 5 layers that this movie gave. When Jane Fonda makes her appearance in this movie, it is to break the character of Mick Boyle. It is in real life what breaks, what could break all of us when something doesn't go our way, or we're told the opposite of what we want to hear, or things negatively just keep happening. Her character, in essence, put the mirror in front of Mick Boyle, which was the role Harvey Keitel played, and showed him, you ain't all as cracked up as you think you are. Because see, while Mick Boyle's character brought across what we all, as going to grow older, if you want a healthy, long life, we want to grow older, the type of energy we should have about that, what Jane Fonda's role did, bringing it back to the movie world, taking it out of reality, bringing it back to the movie world, was said that some people are floating around here and just don't understand how bad their shit stinks. Now, what will become to found out is that everything is a progression. Everything is a progress. At one point in time, for this particular portion of the movie, no woman was allowed to do certain things. And for this screenplay writer in Mick Boyle, being a successful writer of movies for so many years and now writing a movie script that he just thinks is out of this world, he wants to get his regular actress on it, she has to be the one to put it out there that, hey, I was forced and subjected to the type of roles as an actress you wrote for me. But that ain't it. That's not life. I want characters now that affect someone on a real life level. Not an imaginary, what a man's world wants a woman's level to stay at. Now that's heavy to me, and very carefully said, because I'm really trying not to ruin the movie for anyone that has not seen it. And I think that unless you are paying close attention, you will not understand what I just said about Jane Fonda's role and what her role brought to the character Mick Boyle in the movie The Youth. Her words, which were the catalyst for the way his character ended, which I didn't care for that. But I understood it. Because it's like someone learning that what they valued as beyond the stars for their essence wasn't shit. And that there was so much more. But in the end, where Mick Boyle, throughout the movie, held on to persona of just because I'm old don't mean I can't keep it going. It kind of ended in a way where he gave up. In real life, I would want someone to take and reinvent themselves. Actors and actresses, as they get older, have to do it all the time. Musicians reinvent themselves from time into actors and actresses. Well, how does a writer or a director reinvent themselves? How does a screenplay writer who has been used to writing a certain type of film reinvent themselves when those films no longer make it? How many writers and directors do you no longer hear from because of that inability? Unless you watch this movie from start to finish, that point in the heaviness of Jane Fonda's role will be missed. There was a portion where a lot of women were given extremely brief roles to drive this point home. But for so long, in certain work of arts, there is a depiction over the years that women have had, as well as people of color, blacks, Asians. An Asian usually couldn't do a movie unless they were karate chopping, and there's a lot of Asians that feel like, apologize if Asian isn't the right term, I don't want to be ethnically wrong here, but a lot of Asians feel like, hey, I'm more than just some martial art. I want to do a cultured film where I'm just talking too. I'm going to go on the limb here and say I think Chow Yun-fat is an actor that went public saying it like, hey, I'm done with the martial arts stuff. You know, I want to do stuff more historically or culturally or non-whooping somebody's ass way. But Jane Fonda and Harvey Keitel opposite each other, as brief as it was, stands as one of the stamps in this movie that, once again, was a point that caught me off guard, but was well put. Now, to go into Michael Caine's character as Fred Ballinger. Fred Ballinger is the proverbial opposite of Mick Boyle. These guys are friends. They're both spoiled, both at heights of their career. This man has everybody and anybody, from the queen herself, vying for his affection. And all he can do is try to find the next ailment or stew on being old or reminiscing to the good times, so much so he's incapable of seeing the continued good times that are to be had. And that's kind of his realization through this movie as he sits next to his best friend who exerts, hey, I'm here working. I'm not here reveling in this. This movie is going to be the movie. Who proverbially is not being sought after, as it comes to find. He's the opposite in that everybody wants him, and the only thing he can do is revel in what he can't do, what he used to be, what's lost. Michael Caine's character, along with Harvey Keitel, were the soundboards, in that it was through their eyes subtle observations were made throughout the movie, which made the movie, which helped give the air of youth. What is youth? A mere stare, smirk. So many almost motionless actions made by Michael Caine carried so much weight throughout this movie. the more of the still member, if you will. While his character had more of the outside world seeking him and wanting him. In this sense, the Queen of England wanted him for something, and he's just like, I'm retired, bitch. I'm not doing it. My wife was my singer. She can't do it. I'm not doing it. And when I say that this story and the character of Fred Ballinger goes deeper, it absolutely does. But one of my favorite parts in this movie, where it has so many layers that resonated with women in Hollywood, or where it resonated with the youth and the old, or where it resonated with child actors or actresses or actors that have that spark, it had yet another layer that hit home for me, being a girl who vied for the affection of her father. There's different statistics, there's different family styles. I am a young woman who, as a little girl, my father was in my life. He was not in my home. My father had relationships with different women. When you're a child, you don't understand it. But as I grew from a child to a teenager and then into a woman and began to have relationships of my own and wanted who I was with to be faithful to me, I began to understand some of the plights of my mom, and I began to understand the actions of my dad. And there was a part in my world, in my life, where my dad tried to speak to his daughter. And because I had begun to understand what it means when a man isn't faithful to you, I snapped so viciously on him, and I said words that I knew, and it was brief, and it was real, and it was honest. And I would come to regret that I didn't embrace my dad trying to talk to me on the level as an adult. Now, that being said, Rachel Weisz's part as Lena Ballinger in this movie was another character that, okay, you just thought it was the usual character on the surface. Okay, she's passive, she's just taking it. She goes through what I discussed earlier with the midlife crisis, where men kind of go for younger women when they're in their midlife crisis. If as a woman, that's a better way for me, a good way for me to say it, and kind of what the woman has to go through, which was another layer that this movie dealt on very quickly. Yeah, she was that. She was going through that. So many movies are that, where the woman is left behind by the man and the man goes on to a younger woman. But that wasn't the essence of her character as Lena Ballinger to me. Again, Rachel Weisz to me chooses roles that she can look back and it have a strong foundation to her portfolio as an actress. But there is a part in this movie where Lena Ballinger's character very smoothly and calmly tell it like it the fuck is to her father, Fred Ballinger, which is Michael Caine's role. In this brief exaggeration of anguish, she sums up in under 4 minutes the entire essence that her father, leading his life as a selfish man, to her as a child, how it affected her as a woman, how she perceived it as a woman, what she remembers as a woman. Most stories are told from the story of the wife or the mother being left behind, but not too many stories, or only now stories are being told through the eyes of the child. What the child remembers, what the child is proverbially taught to put up with, to ignore. In this case, we hear about the rich life or British, but I really wouldn't say British. I would just say that socialite life where the women kind of know the men are doing whatever, and hell, at this point, the women are doing whatever, and it's like, well, we gonna just stay rich and stay with each other and pretend like none of this stuff happens. I don't know, you've got that hotel room with that trick once a week, and you don't know I'm fucking the pool guy, or that kind of lifestyle. But to what extent it really takes to have a gut check, to actually put up with that, to actually put yourself as secondary or even third or fourth in someone's life where they basically won't understand to what extent it affects that child growing up into it. Again, I'm stepping carefully because I would hate to ruin this movie for anyone that hasn't seen it. But Rachel Weisz's part that I'm discussing at this moment will, for me, stand to be one of my favorite, not only parts, but it will continue to stamp her as an actress that actress whose work of art I will continue to pay attention to. The storylines that she chooses, I will pay attention to. If I were an actress, this is a movie role as Lena Ballinger. Just for that clip, I would love to play because I could relate to her going the fuck off on him like that. And when I say going the fuck off, I'm saying it as what I am. Shit, I'm urban, so she didn't go off on him urban style. It's not really a British film. Written by your British director, but it's an English film. So she goes off on him proper. Maybe black women right now are getting mad, angry black women rep. Shit, some notes can be taken from this calm bitch because she went off pretty smooth. But it jumped to me, it sticks to me because I related to that particular part. Being someone who got the opportunity to tell my dad, you can't tell me about what a man do or is or does. My quote unquote was, I have patience for assholes because of you, because my daddy could do no wrong. I loved him unconditionally. Tell me he's on his way and wouldn't come for 3 or 4 months. When I saw him, I loved him unconditionally. He could do no wrong. I'd be a teenager, 20-something-year-old before I would understand how to look at him through the eyes of a woman scorned. But Lena Ballinger, Fred Ballinger, Michael Caine, Rachel Weisz. Now, one of the 2 final characters that I want to speak about in the movie Youth that were just about silentless and just about motionless, or silentless, all motion. Briefly, there was a character throughout this movie that had not one speaking role, but his physical action was so heavy, literally. Rollo Serrano. I tried to look to see if there was any other work of art Rollo Serrano has done, or if this actually was like an appearance from an actual, he played a tennis player, a retired tennis player. Again, this is a posh, exclusive club. In the essence that Rollo Serrano's character as the tennis player brings, in my opinion, helps to add not to the depression that older people are weighing on the youth of this resort, but the depression of getting old. His character, while Michael Caine's character and Harvey Keitel's character were the soundboards, as in the observers of what was going on, Rollo Serrano's role was a character that was being observed. And his character, while Harvey Keitel's character as Mick Boyle bring across how the type of thinking as growing older we should have, go on to the next thing, keep it going. You're as limitless as the stars. And whereas Michael Caine's character as Fred Ballinger looked at it like, my heyday's over, I'm just going to sit here and die, Rollo Serrano's character as the tennis player went into depth without one word being said through the whole movie that I can recall. Not the regret of growing older, but the depression in itself of growing older. See, the older people in unison are putting an air of depression over the youth, but Rollo Serrano's character depicts the specific depression of growing older. The specific depression of remembering your heyday, remembering how you were, remembering what you could do or used to could do, remembering how you moved, in being aged into and becoming aged into a being that can barely move, that exerts pain just to feel something. He brought the air of the surface explanation will be, overweight and how being overweight can affect you. Okay, if you are a surface movie viewer, that's what you'll see. He's the fat guy walking around, so sad. But his character was much more than that. His character was much more than that fat guy. And if you looked deeper, the way Rollo Serrano's acting carried across, not, oh my God, my stomach is so big. The stomach was the least problem. Him being heavy was the least problem. It was the inability to move, the inability to play a sport that had been harnessed to the point of perfection and no longer being able to play it again. I like to think I have a healthy view, being a person in the real world, an individual, of growing older. Because again, I came from an older mother. I didn't like my youth. I was overweight. I was considered the overweight person. I went to an all-Caucasian school, so I was one of the only dark people. So I had self-esteem problems where I embrace and love myself as an adult. I embrace and love whatever I'm going to become. So much of the world is just looking back. And this character of Rollo Serrano really didn't even capture the essence of necessarily someone older looking back, but just someone older unable to do. It would be not necessarily the example of not what to become, but it would help aid in showing, I think, 30-somethings or 40-somethings to what extent, if you aren't careful, you can almost be caught in like a prison of your mind that has nothing to do with mental and psychological. You could be caught in the prison of your mind in that what you were able to do when you were younger, as you grow older and have real physical ailments begin to affect your physical being. So many people are judgmental about how people are living their life, what they're eating, what they're doing to their bodies. Do this now so you'll be this later. Well, this was the best depiction to me. Because here was a guy who was a famous tennis player. In his heyday, so to speak, the body was right, tight, muscular. And through life, be it being spoiled as a celebrity or whatever, because that's not the story that was told. All of this was brief. If you not pay attention, you'll miss it. But again, it's for movie lovers. Rollo Serrano's part depicted not even regret, just want. I would love to just play tennis. I would love to just walk across this room without this tank. Another silent, motion-only character. And now we've come to my favorite character of the movie Youth. Paul Dano as Jimmy Tree. Now, just like Harvey Keitel and Michael Caine's characters, where they were the soundboards observing everyone at this resort, Jimmy Tree would be the anchor of the observation, so to speak. The character of Jimmy Tree, which again expressed so many different layers. It expressed to what extent a method actor has to go through to embrace that particular role. It expressed how the atmosphere around a method actor would perceive them. And these are surface observations. The comedic surface observation would be, it would be pretty weird if a method actor, to the extent to which the character Jimmy Tree played were at like a YMCA, he would be looked at as a complete fucking idiot. Or like, what is wrong with this guy? But here at this posh exclusive resort, it's kind of like day goes on as usual. Here you have this guy, he's kind of weird, and not one person around him is concerned about him or even paying attention to him, because they're just as eccentric and narcissistic, and for the majority, old and at the height of their careers. Again, this resort had musicians, and it had actors and actresses and retired sport people. What's the basics of this movie? But Jimmy Tree's character as the method actor and how the atmosphere around him perceived him kind of humorously showed how in the world of elite Hollywood, or in the world of these places where these high-end actors and people can go to without being bothered by paparazzi or being bothered, how weird they might possibly actually be when you have people who are in their characters or the next character that they're working for, or